How are you today? I wanted to first go over a little bit of keyword research and give you a little bit of understanding about how I pick keywords compared to most people. I have a very clear path on why I use the methods I do and why I use the tools that I do. What you're seeing right here is Google's auto suggest. This is where we're going to start. The reason I use Google's auto suggest is very easy to understand. The first thing is it's going to take your intentions and it's going to fill in stuff for you, no matter how quickly or how short the phrase is you put in there, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But when you start doing this, you have keywords everywhere. So watch this. I'm going to put the letter A behind that, and it's going to give us a bunch of different options. Go back, hit B, it's going to give us more. C, more, D, E, F. That is a lot of different questions, and none of them are the same. And you just keep going, and you can find this. Okay? So let's just run with this one right here. So that's where my keywords come from. Now, why do I use this from Google? Because that means it's been searched in the last 90 days for that exact phrase, or it wouldn't be there. It doesn't matter how much they say search volume is or isn't. And then I'll show you something else here in just a little bit that validates this on how much search, how many times these phrases are searched. So you may have 100 different variations of a certain phrase, but they're all counted as one. So even though this particular keyword may only deliver you 3 visitors a day, this one may give you none. This one may give you 200. So you just never know which variation of that keyword. And I'm not talking about where we were doing it like this, you know, part A and part B, part A, B, C, and D. I'm talking about they would use part A and part B, you know, where they might word it, is there a difference between part A and part B Medicare? You know, there's 100 different ways you could reword it. Actually, probably more than that. Maybe not with what's the difference, or the differences between Medicare Part A and Part B, or how does Medicaid Part A and Part B work together? Is it a good plan? There's thousands. I'm not familiar with the insurance market as far as how it works in detail. I've never sold insurance. I sold a lot of mortgages and stuff, but not insurance. But anyway, this is where you know people have been searching for this in the last 90 days, or it wouldn't be here. Now here's another place you can find keywords. When you scroll down, they have these little boxes that says people also ask. Now, if you notice, this is a long list. Now, why is this one so big compared to others? Because all I did was open it. You open a couple of them that are relevant to you, and it'll put more down there. And it'll just keep expanding, and you can find more and more questions. So these are long tails. These are the ones that very few people are going after, and they may not be answering them directly. So let's take let's go ahead and run with this one. So we're gonna do part part C and D. So we'll take this one, we'll go ahead and search it, and put it in there. We're going to go down to organic results. See this right here? This is called a knowledge graph. And this is a way for you, in a lot of ways, to cheat your way into the top, even from second page. If you look at it, it's priorityhealth.com, AARP. I still don't see priorityhealth.com. So they moved right up into the first page, because this is ads. Past ads, Medicare.gov. They got past Medicare.gov on this, and they're not even on the first page, not on the second page. That's pretty incredible. So you don't have to be all that great if you know what keywords to look for. And like I said, this is a fairly simple one. They got the knowledge graph. They're not in the first 3 pages. So how did they get there? Because they answered the question directly within the blog post. Medicare Part C is called Medicare Advantage. It gives you additional coverage. Part D gives you prescription drug coverage. So it's answering a very direct question, but it puts you at the top of everything. Now, here's another one of those. People also ask, gives you more questions. You start clicking on these and watch it expand. And just keep expanding. And give you more and more keywords. And then you just go check them. And what you're looking for is that knowledge graph. That is what you're looking for, that knowledge graph right there. So you refresh it and it just shrinks it back down. But you can, every time you click one of them, it expands and gives you more keywords that people are actually searching for. And you want the question and answer types. That's very, very important, because they're not something that the big boys go after. So it's a wide open thing, just like I told you as far as this priority health right there. They're not in the first 3 pages. We looked. Let me go back through again just to make sure. Still not on the first page. Not on page 2. So understanding Medicare.gov, Medicare.gov. No, still not there. And I believe we went to page 3. Spouses. Yeah, it's just there because nobody else answered that question. That's all that boils down to. So if you can go get these long tails, as soon as you get your blog indexed or post indexed, it's probably going to jump right up there because nobody else has answered that question directly. Now, I'll show you some formats on how to do that when we get into that part of it. But the first thing is you got to understand these keywords. These keywords may not produce a whole lot of traffic at all. You may only get 2 or 3 visitors a day. You may get 20 a day. You may get 60 a day. But, you know, 1 is greater than 0. So if you can nail one of these and you put out enough content, you're probably going to have to put out a couple hundred posts on this on your blog to make this work. And there's a lot I'm going to teach you on how to make this work. But this is the first step. The number 1 factor in ranking right now in Google is being smart enough to hit these little snippets right here, that right there, the knowledge graph. If you can get those, you don't even have to be on the first 3 pages. You don't have to rank for much. You just have to go find something. And this one right here, you could actually go and write this article and use the keywords, that actual title, use that as your actual title of your post, write your post out, and then the second paragraph, answer the question directly. Just say, what's the difference between Medicare Part C and Part D? And give an absolute answer, just like this is, directly behind it. And guess what's going to happen? Your site's going to show up there better. The more of those keywords you have in that phrase, in that area, the more relevant you're going to have, and you're going to end up landing that spot. Now, it is a competition, but these people are not even in the first 3 pages. PriorityHealth.com, not in the first 3 pages in organic results. They got there because they were the most relevant, and they answered the question directly. Now, here's another way you can do it. When you start looking at these articles, don't you think if you wrote a better, because these are basically answering the question too. This is the same thing as this, just expanded out. Part C, medical advantage. The federal government requires these plans. This is not a very good one, so if you went in and answered that one, you would be doing okay. Right there, I mean Medicare Part D if I have Advantage plan. Well, give a better answer in 2 to 3 sentences and you'll get that spot. There's loads of ways, and you don't have to rank for none of this. But Google's going to put you on the first page anyway, and maybe right there at the top. You got to learn to use their system. It's there for beginners. And like I said, the number 1 reason people rank in Google is because they handle Google's traffic well. So how does a news site get up there with no links and no social interaction? Well, you hit these areas, and you hit these areas, where you have these little slinkies. And let's just refresh it again just to show you. And you hit these people also ask for. Now, there's also more keywords down here at the bottom. You know, searches related to what's the difference between Part C and Part D. So there's other questions to explore. So here's the thing. How did I find these examples? With this little tool right here. So I popped in a phrase, what's the difference between Medicare plan, and put an asterisk behind it, and it went and searched every single version it could find. Now what we're looking for is the longer phrases. So let's see, I know there's some longer ones in here. Okay, there's some. What's the difference between Medicare Plan F and Plan G? So let's take what and see if I already ran this. I think I didn't. Yep. I ran versions of it, but not all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run this. And what this does effectively is when you're sitting here at the top of here and you take it, let's just say back to part, and then do A, B, C. Look at all those long tails. And you just keep going. Well, that's what this machine does, and it collects them all. This software. So we're going to go ahead and run this one. I'm going to move these. Let me clear this. I'm going to move all of these over here. Now that's just one example. You know your industry, so what other questions are people asking? Well, that's easy to find out. So just start asking what? And we'll get to that later, but anyway, let me go ahead and get this thing going. So we're going to let that one run on that and see how many variations we can find. And you just sit there and let that little puppy run for a few minutes. And it'll run. If you notice right here, it's changing the letter. Now you can also do this numerically right here. You can also do AAZZ to get really detailed, but I found you end up with a lot of trash in it, so I try not to do that. But chances are we're going to have multiples. There's 87 keywords so we ended up with 72. So probably got a pretty decent little list of keywords here. There's between Medicaid, between Medicare Plan F and G, A and B. So let's take a couple of these. I'm going to Google that one. Okay, so you can outright that. You can make this work better. But again, that's by Medicare Advantage. They're not even on the first page again. There's your route in. That and these. You've got to learn to write long tail articles. Now, we go into here. So we've got plenty right here. We got a lot of different phrases that we could use to write blog posts about. They're usually easy to rank for. You can get that snippet or knowledge graph, and you can turn a lot of traffic. Now, before we go into more detail on how to do this, which we'll get into further, this is just an introduction. I wanted to go over a few things on your blog real quick. And we're just going to start right here. Most every one of these posts that you have right now are, let's see, how would I say this? They're advertorials, they're not really blog posts that are helpful. We're trying to sell here, sell up here, sell up here. You can put a link in there to whatever page you want, but you don't need to continuously hype anything. You're not selling on your blog. Your blog makes, okay, if you do everything right, you're going to bring in a lot of traffic and you're going to make a lot of money. But these are long tails. These are people at different levels of buying cycle, and they're asking different questions. So you're going to have to be a little more, less pushy in your blog post. Now, here's another thing. This right here would be gold if it were not an image. If you actually put the graph in there and reword that, this could possibly show up in a knowledge graph. Exactly what we were talking about. Right there. For that phrase. So you got to, I'll get into more detail as we go. This is the introduction, and I want you to understand that this is going to take a little while to put all together because there's a lot of detail in this. But don't sell on your blog. You don't sell in these posts. These posts have one purpose, and that is to inform that person. Yeah, you want a call to action in it, but you don't want to start off like this one. This one's an advertorial for Manhattan Life for a particular plan. And like I said, it's well worded. It looks good. You got some good structure to it. You got bullet points. You got good subheadlines. Back to Manhattan again. Would have been great if it was actually put in a table, and you have Elementor, so that's not hard to do. So what it's not is, it'll be more text and line based instead of, pretty with the colors. But this data is what Google looks for. And if you have stuff that you can build tables with to give information, you're going to be great. Okay? This is where you sell at the bottom. Now up here you need to have internal links to other posts. So let's just say that we took one of those keywords. In fact, we'll pull up the keyword tool. And let's say we were looking at plan F and plan G, write one about that, and there's a different version of it right there. Remember I was telling you about different versions? I'll show you about that later on. But don't worry about selling on your blog. That should come naturally. But I'm going to teach you all kind of tricks to hit those little knowledge graphs or snippets, and how to get in those people also search for or people also ask. And we'll get into that on the next one here in just a little bit. But don't sell them on your blog. That's the wrong place. And almost all of these are pitch. And you don't want such a hard pitch. You do want internal links, like right here, Medicare supplement plans. That's a good way to do things. But I'm going to teach you about keywords with that too, and we'll get to that later on. That's in internal linking. That'll be one of the last videos. So anyway, here's your introduction, keyword research, and I'm going to go ahead and get you started and actually using the tool, coming up with ideas. Well, I just showed you how to get ideas, but we'll get into more depth because we're going to dig into other people's articles, and we're going to find ways to drill down even further so you can find more of these knowledge graphs to pop into. And like I said, if your site has a little bit of age, which it does, then you should be able to go in, write a blog post, and land in these knowledge graphs. If you craft your knowledge graphs area, your paragraph, your 2 to 3 sentences correctly, you'll have a better shot at hitting that knowledge graph. And that'll bring you instant traffic. Instant traffic shows Google that your site is trusted, depending on how they act on your site. That's why I said the more selling on your blog, that's a no-no, because you want your bounce rate to be low. And if you're doing nothing but advertorials, then they're not going to stay long, and that's going to be bad signals to Google, and you're not going to rank. And the more that happens, the less you're going to rank. You want people to find useful content that actually helps them, answers their question, without annoying them with a constant pitch all the way through. You do your pitch at the end of it if you want to, but you don't do it throughout the post. You give them what they're looking for first, and you can be a little more nonchalant about doing it and be more subtle and come across as more trustworthy instead of more aggressive. You've got to be a little more passive online. So, looking forward to doing the next one for you. You should have that coming shortly.